The dust of Ganymede was finer than talcum powder and twice as clingy. It found every unsealed seam in a suit, every wrinkle of synth fabric, and even the micro grooves of a helmet visor. Captain Mira Seo had learned to live with the grit. What she could not learn to live with was the way the moon's burnt umber soil looked exactly like dried blood under the red lamps of a stealth rover. "We're coming up on Drop Point Delta," Sergeant Eli Orlov said, crouched beside her in the cramped troop bay. He was broad-shouldered, graying at the temples, with a voice like gravel poured over steel plates. Mira touched the pad at her wrist. The map of the Jovian supply corridor lit up on her visor. A lattice of tunnels hacked into Ganymede's ice crust, glowing crimson where Coalition intelligence flagged ammunition depots, 18 in total. The offensive the Jovians called Operation Iron Arch would roll at dawn, their local dawn, when Sol's pale light crept over the crater rim. Mira's unit had about 4 hours to turn that arch into a pile of broken stones. "Whisper, on your feet," she ordered over squad-wide comms. 6 figures rose inside the rover, almost spectral under the red lamps. They were quantum sappers, officially the 83rd Penetration Engineering Detachment, but everyone just called them Whispers. Their weapons were not rifles or rockets, but tools of the most delicate kind: picometer calipers, vacuum-sealed cryovials, and the small, ominously unmarked cubes that housed entanglement bombs. Eli keyed the bay hatch. The vehicle hissed to a halt, and the door irised open onto an airless trench. Above them, the void was a tapestry of brutal stars. 40 kilometers away, the Jovian front lines glittered with the faint haze of reactor exhausts, freight sleds, and the flicker of temporary shield domes. Private Di Arima was the youngest of them, a slip of a girl freshly transferred from orbital research. Her voice quivered as the suit radio kicked on. "Atmospheric trace stable. Radiation background nominal." Nominal, Mira thought, only because the Jovians hadn't noticed them yet. She motioned forward. One by one, the sappers leapt into the powdery regolith, magnetic boots hitting silently. Beneath the trench's lip lay a camouflage tarp stretched over a sinkhole-wide shaft, ventilation for the logistic tunnels. The opening was a wound breathing warm, propellant-scented air into the vacuum. "Lower me," Mira said. Eli planted a grav anchor and paid out the carbon line. Mira descended headfirst, rifle slung but ignored. The true weapon waited in the padded forearm case tethered to her harness. Dim orange lights wavered far below. As she dropped, the smell of propellant thickened, mixed with lubricant and the metallic tang of field ration packaging. An entire war's stomach and claws moved along these tunnels, right beneath the Coalition's nose. It would have been impressive if it hadn't been her job to murder it. 10 meters from the tunnel floor, she toggled the suit thrusters and alighted without a sound. The others followed. Day last, her exhale crackling across comms. "Channel silent," Mira said. Talking risked ultrasound leak. Instead, she sent pulses of tight beam laser through the dust, point to point. Squad IDs encoded as quantum noise, indistinguishable from background to any Jovian scanner. Whisper had perfected the art of being mistaken for vacuum. Ahead lay a maglev track. Bright yellow crates, stenciled with the hegemony's sigil, sat stacked 3 high beside the rails. Naval shells, plasma cartridges, gravitic flechettes, variety enough to ruin several divisions. Mira unlatched her forearm case. Inside nestled a black cube no bigger than a coffee mug. Its surface was matte, radar-absorbent, adorned by a single recessed port. She eased it out and felt the same hush she'd felt the first time she held one. The hush of a mathematics so perfect it frightened her. Entanglement bombs, Q-bombs, and barracks slang were the Coalition's worst-kept secret. Each contained twin arrays of atoms hyper-entangled with partners, stored in a secure firebase 30 kilometers behind the lines. Agitate the home array, and its twins, wherever they were seated, would undergo an immediate coherence collapse. That collapse could be engineered to release shaped charges, electromagnetic flux, or simple thermal bursts. If you seated enough in the right places, one button pushed could turn the enemy's own ammo into a constellation of miniature suns. And because the trigger event was a quantum measurement, there was no detectable signal, nothing to intercept or jam. By the time the enemy realized their stores were unstable, they'd already be geysers of incandescent death. Mira's team had spent the last 6 nights crawling through vent shafts, cargo dumps, cook tents, anywhere ordnance sat awaiting distribution, implanting one half of those bombs. Tonight they finished the web. She set her cube on the side of a shell crate. Magnetic tendrils snaked out, gripping metal. The device's port opened like a flower, exuding microbots the size of dust motes. They slid into seams, drilled molecular pinholes, and injected slivers of entangled matter. 10 seconds later, the port iris shut. The crate looked untouched. A green whisper blinked on Mira's HUD. Node linked. One down. 17 to go. The squad melted through the corridor, splitting into pairs. Every depot had its peculiarities. A guard drinking recaf from a flask, a maintenance drone clacking across the ceiling, a sensor cluster aimed the wrong way because some lieutenant wanted a better livestream angle. Each time, Mira's sappers ghosted past, leaving behind only seeds of catastrophe. Hours passed, measured not by clocks but heartbeats. At Depot 9, they found 2 Jovian engineers in heated argument over tracking logs. Eli stunned them, quietly, and Day erased 10 minutes of surveillance loops with a splice that would have earned a professorship back home. At Depot 12, they discovered a problem. Ammunition crates sealed in lead glass vaults. Day studied the vault's biometric panel. My bypass kit is copper wired. Lead glass will eat signal. Mira considered. Skip it, Eli muttered. No, Mira said. If we leave a gap and they shift artillery mid-battle, we get uneven chain reactions. Overpressure waves could fizzle instead of reinforcing. We go through. She placed a sensor bud on the panel. From its filament, she projected a hologram of the lock's lattice. It looked like a spinning tesseract of numbered nodes. She'd seen puzzles in children's Edda shows more complex. Security through intimidation, not sophistication. Her gauntlet deployed microneedles. The needles touched 3 points. The lock clicked. The vault door slid open with a hiss of hermetic seals failing. Cold air kissed her visor, the smell of ozone and minty disinfectant. Inside waited canisters for particle lance batteries, volatile, dense with stored energy. Node linked, her HUD said 30 seconds later. They resealed the vault and ghosted on. At Depot 15, a tremor rippled through the flooring. From miles away, muffled via rock and ice, came the rumble of engines. Coalition artillery prepping a feint, Mira guessed, the opening move of the grand operation. You feeling it? Eli asked on line-of-sight laser. Yeah, Mira answered, though she felt more than the tremor. She felt memory, her brother, Lieutenant Sung Seo, who died 3 months earlier when a Jovian ammunition train had detonated under his ground team. No warning, no survivors. The official report blamed enemy artillery, but soldiers told each other whispers. The ammo had cooked off after a stray power surge. Faulty logistics. Sung had burned because some Jovian quartermaster cut corners. Mira tightened her fist until glove servos whined. Tonight she intended to repay the favor. Quantum interest compounded. Depot 17 lay beneath an ice arch, crusted with frost so thick it looked like marble. Their map showed no patrols, yet a lone soldier sat on a folding chair, reading a virtual novel projected inside his helmet visor. How human, Mira thought, that even on a moon at the fringes of hell, people still read fiction. She almost slipped past. Then the guard looked up and saw Eli. The moment froze like a photon trapped between mirrors. The guard's expression, surprise spiraling into fear, was horribly naked. Mira's reflexes fired. Her wrist flicked. A stun dart hissed. It struck the guard's neck. He collapsed without a sound. She reached him in 2 strides, checked vitals. Alive. 30 minutes of unconsciousness, medical safe. She caught herself feeling relieved, annoyed by her own tenderness. Wrap him, she ordered. Day sprayed the man's collar with narcotic foam. They stowed him behind crates and set the entanglement seed. Node linked. 18 green whispers glowed on Mira's HUD. The pattern looked like a constellation of emerald suns across the supply grid. Complete. Wholeness in a universe carved by war. Extraction pattern blue, she signaled. Time to vanish. They retraced steps to drop point Delta, ascended the shaft, and sealed the camouflage tarp. The rover collected them in silence. Only when its airlock cycled and interior pressure equalized did Mira lift her helmet. The stale cabin smelled of sweat, lubricant, and that ever-present Ganymede dust. Eli slumped on a bench, beard matted with frost. Tell me HQ appreciated the full set, Captain. Mira tapped her wrist comm. The secure uplink hissed with encryption noise. Then Major Celeste Hanaud's voice emerged. Good work, Whisper. All nodes confirmed coherent. Return to Firebase Tremontaine and await H-hour. The sappers buckled in. Motors thrummed. Through portholes, Mira watched the gloom slide by, the jagged horizon backlit by starlight. She let her head rest, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, she replayed each depot, each crate, each tiny cube now humming with dormant fate. They reached Tremontaine, an excavated crater rim turned fortress, half an hour before the Coalition's final briefing. Infantry carriers lined the trenches like steel centipedes. Field medics warmed plasma bags. Artillery crews caressed big guns as though they were holy relics. Inside the command dome, shimmering with EM noise barriers, generals spoke in clipped tones. The plan: ground units would feint along the equatorial flats, drawing Jovian batteries forward. Mid-feint, Whisper's bombs would turn every enemy ammo dump into a firestorm. With their logistics crippled, Jovian spearheads would stall, and Coalition armor would punch through to the orbital elevator. A simple plan, blood red in its arithmetic. Your trigger window is 6:07 to 6:08, Major Hanaud told Mira, eyes glinting like polished shale. 1 minute, no flex. We need their ammo to blow while it's still in rear areas, not yet distributed to front batteries. Mira nodded. Understood. After briefing, she found a quiet alcove overlooking the crater rim. Beyond shield glass, the ice plains stretched pale in starlight. She remembered camping with Sung in the Rockies back on Earth, how they'd counted shooting stars. He joked about quantum entanglement then, calling it star-crossed romance for particles. She didn't know why that surfaced now, but it made her chest ache. Captain? Day approached, helmet cradled like a nervous offering. I did a quantum coherence test on Node 15 during transit. The seed looked anxious. Mira raised an eyebrow. Anxious isn't a metric. Sorry, I mean its phase variance drifted a hair above tolerance. It's probably fine. I'm just, worried it misfires? Mira finished. If it does, it'll detonate anyway. Earliest bang just means their line cooks off a minute sooner. Our timetable maintains. Day bit her lip. Yes, ma'am. Mira softened. You did good out there. All of you did. Eli clomped up. Feints moving in 15. Command wants Whisper in Bunker 3, trigger station. They filed into the bunker, bare concrete, no windows, only a holographic board showing friendly and enemy positions, and in the center a console with a single key switch. Above it, a shielded suitcase. Remote entanglement interface unit. The other halves of their bombs rested inside that suitcase, chilled and magnetically suspended. When the key turned, a laser would measure spin states in the suitcase's qubits. Instantly, their twins out in the field would lose coherence. Decoherence would release the energy stored in metastable lattices inside each seated crate, a seed crystal torching propellants, a chain reaction racing outward faster than thought. Mira looked at her watch. 06:04. Radio chatter buzzed, infantry platoons jogging, armor reversing turrets to fake weaknesses, drones flitting low to flash sensor ghosts. All the world a stage, nothing true except the quiet inside the bunker. Eli cleared his throat. You want me to do it? Mira shook her head. My operation, my turn. She slid her identification crystal into the console. It chimed. The key rose like an invitation. Ur-6-6. The tremor of distant artillery reached them, coalition guns barking blank shells to sell the faint. 067, Shern. A red ring pulsed on the console. Go. Mira pressed the key. It rotated with an almost tender click. Some events are too fast for time. Somewhere in that infinity-thin slice of space-time, after the click but before consequence, Mira felt neither triumph nor dread, only completion, as though a chord finally resolved to tonic. Then came the storm. The bunker's seismic sensors spiked, fed directly to the holoboard. 18 points along the enemy rear bloomed white, overloaded sensors translating energy into color. Detonations overlapped, each feeding the next. Stockpiled shells cooked, warheads flashed, hydrogen batteries cracked and fused. Even through tens of kilometers of rock, they heard it. A subaudible groan, the moon's crust complaining at the sudden heat. Dust fell from the bunker ceiling. Comms exploded with chatter. Coalition observers shouting bearings. Enemy lines in disarray. Jovian units halting mid-advance. Mira watched icons hiccup on the tactical board, then freeze. Supply nodes vanished. Forward batteries reported ammunition gone. Resupply routes severed. Outside, coalition armor began its real advance. Engines roaring. She tried to feel victorious. Instead, she felt empty. The bombs had done what they were built to do. Men and women who moments ago were sipping tea or reading novels had been erased by quantum mathematics. The war would surge on, but for thousands it had ended in an eye blink. Eli exhaled, a long, ragged sigh. "Hell of a light show," he muttered. His face was pale. Day stared at the board, lips moving silently, perhaps reciting a prayer, perhaps counting casualties she could only imagine. Major Hinault's voice crackled over internal comm. "Beautiful work, Whisper. Enemy push is stalled across all sectors. Armor spearheads advancing. Stand by for redeployment order." The rest blurred. Mira removed her earpiece. She walked to the doorway and gazed down the corridor. Medics hurried, runners shouted, but here by the bunker door the world seemed muffled, as though the moon held its breath. Eli joined her. "You okay, Cap?" "Suppose so." She rubbed the scuffed plate on her gauntlet where the stun dart had fired. "Do you think he'll wake up in the rubble?" "Who?" "The guard at Depot 17. "Oh," Eli shrugged. "If the overhead collapsed, maybe not." She nodded, not knowing whether she wanted him alive. The war demanded symmetry. Her brother for their guard, maybe. But symmetry was a physicist's fairy tale. In real life, balance never arrived, only accumulation. Day called from inside. "Captain, HQ's routing us a new grid. They want another insertion tonight, East Quadrant. Fresh supply lines." Mira closed her eyes. Already. The ink of the first strike hadn't dried, but she understood. The Jovians would adapt, shift depots, shield stockpiles. The coalition would answer with more bombs, sharper ghosts. Whispers would keep planting seeds until one side lacked bodies to collect harvest. She pictured Sung again, laughing as he sketched particle diagrams in campfire smoke. He'd believed in the war once, believed in protecting Earth's fragile cradle from Jovian expansion. She wondered what he would say now, seeing her turn enemy camps into silent graves with the flick of a key. Probably he would say nothing, because how could language stretch across that gulf? "Captain?" Eli repeated. She straightened. "Tell HQ we'll need 10 more cubes and a fresh rover." Eli saluted. Mira stared at the tactical board glowing inside the bunker. New red lines, new depots, new lives already marked for deletion. The dust of Ganymede swirled outside, rosy under rising sunlight. It looked like dried blood. It would always look like dried blood. In a few hours they would ride out again. The entanglement bombs would nestle into crates never meant for them, lie dormant until summoned by another key's soft click. And when they ignited, some distant officer would call the outcome beautiful. Mira wondered whether anyone on any side remembered why the first shot had been fired, or if the reasons had long ago decohered like their bombs. Possibilities collapsing into a single, irrevocable fact. That the war existed, therefore it must be fed. She set her helmet, sealed the collar, and stepped from the bunker into dust and dawn, a whisper among whispers, carrying the quietest weapon the universe had yet devised.